Everyone. This is N.E. Larice, founder of Kalea Flora, poet, student of medicine, onerology, and Neurology. In this video, which is entitled Understanding Dreams by the Feeling, and Typology of Dreams and Dreaming in Indigenous Traditions and Ancient Cultures, we're going to be getting into how to work with the life force that the dream is giving us by tapping into its feeling. Okay, so for those of you who aren't already acquainted with this, Kalea Flora is a home for neurological education, and our studies are based in Oaxaca, Mexico, not far from the lands of Ixtlan, the mythic home of Don Juan Matus, the holder of lineage of Nahualism, in which was taught to Castaneda. So I'd like to begin here with a quote from one of my favorite workers in dreams, psychologist, onerologist, Eugene Ginland, and it reads, "Nothing that we say about human beings is sure. Dreams are mysterious. Nothing about them is sure. We have no sure understanding of dreams." So with this very powerful quote to open up subject matter here, we'll get into this video. And in this video, we're going to be looking through the lenses of psychology, onerology, anthropological field work from various indigenous pueblos here in Mexico, as well as a bit of oral tradition wisdom of the Toe lineage, and then just to provide some syncretism, kind of tie it all in. We're going to go to some other traditions of the world that are holding very impactful, very important oniric information. Okay, so we begin here. Let's pull up this next slide. Okay, here we are. So in order to speak about the feeling, in order to speak about the process of understanding the dreams through its feeling, it's important to mention the work of Eugene Ginland, whom I quoted earlier. Ginland developed the now widely used therapeutic method known as the felt sensation method of letting the body interpret the dream. Now, I do think it's important to say that he developed this method for the Western world because the indigenous peoples and ancient cultures from around the world have been practicing some sort of method of feeling out their dreams and working with their oniric process since the beginning of time. I just wanted to throw that in. He kind of really brought this more heart-centered technique to the West. So it's very important work. So as Ginland says, the body isn't a machine, it is a cosmic system. And by the felt sensation of the dream, we can tap into the life force that the dream is lending us. So here's a quick reference of how deeply this method can be taken and how many diverse ways in which it can be applied. And I would like you all to go ahead and screenshot this material here because it's very important. It's been very vital in my work with my own oniric process. Try to pull myself close. I'm not blocking any of the words here. Okay. So again, a quick reference to the felt sensation method, and as you can see, it is vast and it can be applied in many different ways. As Ginland says, all these questions are an amalgamation of the different dream theories and practices of the great dream theorists, psychologists, neurologists, and therapists of the past. He actually said that when he began teaching this method, he was amazed because his students were tending to and working with their dreams in a way that was more dynamic, impactful, and effective than that of the experts, the actual experts in the field of dreams and dreaming at this time. So that is very quite an amazing feat. So with this method, we each become our own onerologist. We each are able to work with the life force given by the dream in a transformative and holistic way. So there's three methods of association: what comes to us, what feeling, and how does the dream relate to yesterday. And then there's the three elements of any drama. There's the place, the story, the characters. And then we work with the characters in three different ways. What part of me, what part of myself is the dream character representing? How would I be that person? How would I be that dream character? And how would the dream continue? if it did not end in a certain way? How would it continue? We have 3 decoding ways: symbols, body analogy, counterfactual, and then 4 dimensions of development: childhood, personal growth, sexuality, and spirituality. Also want everyone to keep in mind that not every one of these questions should be or has to be used on just one dream. There are far too many. This is just a storehouse of the possible moves we can make with our dreams. So when we get stuck on one aspect of the dream and one of these questions aren't bringing up that felt sense, then we move on to the next one until we find the felt intelligence of the dream, feeling sense, which really goes beyond words. So that's why we just have to say it's the feeling sense. So again, go ahead and please screenshot this, dream family. It'll be a beautiful and swift reference for you to powerfully work with and on your dreams. Okay. Yeah. So some of us may be wondering how the dream translates into a feeling upon waking up. And I say that because this is something I was wondering myself. So in Arnold Mendel's work entitled The Dream Body, he answers this question quite well, actually. So he describes that the dream body is a multi-channeled signaler which seeks our attention through our dreams, body symptoms, and relations. He goes on to say that the dream body is ours, yet it is not ours. It's a collective phenomenon belonging to nature and to the world around us. It's indeed paradoxical. Our dream body is us, is a part of us, but is also a part of the whole, of the collective. And the existence of this universal dream body means that we are a reflection of the greater world. Our dreams are world dreams with personal imagery associated to them, which speak especially to us. And this is definitely synchronistic with the toe lineage teachings of Nawalism that says that our Nawal, or our anemic essence, which we interact with the dream, basically our dream body, it pulls its energy from the moon and the entire cosmos, while our solar-based, or just our conscious mind, is solely pulling energy from the sun. It's a solar-based energy. So it's kind of beautiful how different cultures, different timelines, like speaking about the dream, oftentimes fit together so nicely and complement each other. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about our work here with Kalea Flora and the studies and practices of dreaming. It is indeed an amazing gift from the Creator to dream, because when we study and tend to our dreams, we are studying and tending to our connection with the Creator, the overworlds, the underworlds, as well as the collective as a whole. And now that we've gone over the felt sensation method and how the dream feeling is transmitted, we will look into some of the different ancient traditions and indigenous groups around the world, with a special focus here in Mexico, of course, because that's the center point of our own neurological research. But we'll look into some of these different areas and how they think of the dream and how they feel about the dream. Now, when we look into these different indigenous peoples' views and practices of dreams, we can immediately see how complex and sophisticated their dreaming knowledge and wisdom is. And one thing is important that we mention before we begin getting into these different indigenous groups and ancient cultures of dreaming, is that in different cultures, we find different nuances of parallel space-time. And it is very difficult to propose a single formulation that includes all of them. That is to say, dreaming in one indigenous culture could be totally different from dreaming in a neighboring culture, especially here in Mexico. Also, keep in mind that the oniric wisdom and knowledge that I'm about to share from each of these indigenous peoples are just to help everyone kind of understand how the felt method of dreams has been used since ancient times. And by no means does the information that I'm about to mention about each tribe sum up their knowledge and oniric wisdom. We're kind of just scratching the surface here. I plan to do whole entire videos on different pueblos, different indigenous peoples in Mexico in relation to their dreaming wisdom and how they see and how they maneuver in how they speak about the dream. We begin here. And these are the Mihi peoples of Oaxaca. So for the Mihis, there is not only one term of dreaming, or kumani, and of course, these are very indigenous languages, and I do not have that tongue, so please please bear with me for any lack of pronunciation. So for the Mihis, there is not only one term of dreaming, kumani, but there is a vast typology of dreaming. It is clear that there is a different notion of sleep from wakefulness, and that the distinction is one of quality and not reality. Now here we have the Chantal group, indigenous group of Mexico. And for the Chantal people, they are known for their use of an onirigen meaning dream herb, and this onirigen being Kalea Zakatashishi, which sounds familiar because it is where we pull the name Kalea flora from. So the herb Kalea Zakatashishi, known as the dream herb in our modern day, but to them they know it as the tle pelanco, or the leaf of God, famous for its ability to induce lucidity, or what I like to call the dreaming attention. Now for the Raramuris, or the Tarahumara people, you see here, indigenous peoples of northern Mexico, the Sipami are anemic entities in which they have direct connection with and communion with via the oniric process, aka dreaming. And they also employ the use of an onirigen titled Bacanoa. We move on to the Mixtec peoples. Like I said, I'm just giving a brief bit of information on each indigenous group. So for the Mixtec, or the Nudzahi peoples, the dream is a means of communication between worlds that is a constant part of the shamanic praxis. They say each dream constitutes a lesson for the healer fortune teller, in which he learns a very different divinatory technique and varied knowledge in the interaction with the territorial entities, the saints, the deceased, and the animal alter egos themselves. We move on to the next group here. So for the Chinanteco peoples, their shamans base their practice on the power of their nahuals, known as the anemic body or dream body in Mesoamerica. But that was very profound. Moving on to the Lacandon Mayan people, Chiapas. Center this really quick, okay. Now for the Lacandon Mayan of Chiapas, the people, or better said, they're animated entities or anemic entities, think and therefore come when they sleep, because dreaming, the word wayak, is seeing, the word irik, during sleep. So when they dream, the other word for dreaming is seeing during sleep, seeing within self. Another Mayan group. These are the Tzotzili Mayans, and for them, their shamans are called the Hilil, or H''ILIL, and that is the one who sees. Now they say, of course, everyone sees, but few know how to see. And the unique role of these shamans lie precisely in the ability to voluntarily move in dreams or trances between these two areas of existence. Okay. Into the next group here. And here we have the Otomi people. So for the Otomis in the dream, personal knowledge, positions, and destinies circulate in a schematic way. During dreams, the divine power offers the adequate ways by which they could be nourished by humans. in which the relationship between our world and the other world are made face to face, while humans have disaggregated from their vital bodies. Okay. This is a Nawa woman, and the importance that the Nawa people gave to the dream is emphasized and narrated in the Kalmekat, the school of priests and leaders. In the school, they were taught Indian astrology and the importance of dreams. So they actually had a school that was teaching this. It was something that was very embedded in the Mesoamerican culture, this dreaming in the mirror worlds, so to speak. So, like I said, there's many other indigenous groups in Mexico that are holders of oniric wisdom as well, and which I have not mentioned in this video. My studies are continuously getting more and more in depth here. Again, I'll be doing a whole entire video on this topic, on the indigenous dreams in indigenous Mexico, indigenous pueblos. For now, I kind of just wanted to show a couple different groups and how each one of them has different ways of feeling their dreams, different wisdom to be brought from the dream space, from the oniric space. So before we get into another tradition and another peoples of oniric wisdom, I wanted to mention a practice from the Toe lineage of oral tradition that I think fits in very well with the topic of this video here. Again, this comes from the Toe lineage of Nahualism. Nahualism meaning the knowledge and wisdom of intent, the mastery of intent, or the science of I, knowledge of self, essentially. So in the tradition, it is known that most of us, when we dream, we enter into the land of the dead, or which is synonymous with the unconscious dream. And also they're also known as the underworlds. And these underworlds are places in which our psyche is stuck. Now, the study gets very deep, and depending on your actual glyph in the Mesoamerican astrology, you may have the tendency to visit these underworlds more frequently than others in your dreams. It was super special for me to learn the ancient system because it made a lot of sense of how I dreamt to me. We'll be sharing that with our dream family here soon. Super excited to begin sharing. Okay, so this is the first underworld. I won't try to pronounce the Nahuatl names. You can read them there. I'll just describe their metaphorical meaning and their symbology for the crossing of the two rivers. So the first underworld right away speaks about the lack of awareness. And that goes for the lack of awareness into sleep, but also the lack of awareness into death. And here is the second underworld. This is the meeting of the two mountains. This underworld is symbolic for the repetitive, destructive patterns that keep us from knowing our true self. And the third, I'm just gonna kind of breeze through these underworlds here, and then at the end, I'll speak about the practice and how to relate this into our dreams and how to decipher where at in our dream are we internally, what part of ourselves is speaking to us. And most of the time it is a part of ourselves that is trapped in the underworld, because until we get from the, I'll use the indigenous terminology because there really is no English words for it, but until we get to the Timiksok, or the blossom dream from the Timikli, or the unconscious dream, we will indeed be experiencing dreams in the underworlds. So this is the third underworld, and this underworld is symbolic for the conscious and unconscious weaknesses we have and the difficulties we have. Fourth underworld, flags blown about by the wind. And this underworld is symbolic for the repetition of one's ancestral patterns that are no longer serving to our greatest potential. And now the fifth, freezing through it here. The sight of freezing winds. This underworld is symbolic for fear of change, laziness to achieve one's greatest potential. The sixth underworld, the place where the heart is eaten by wild beasts. Now, this underworld is symbolic for unresolved, uncleansed emotions. In the seventh underworld, this is the place where we are chased by arrows. This underworld is symbolic for any inharmonic ways we use our ideas, beliefs, words, thoughts, and expectations. Those are known as arrows in the ancient culture. You're literally throwing arrows at yourself, throwing arrows at others when you fall into judgment. In eighth underworld, this is the place where clouds become darker. This is the underworld that is symbolic of attachment to the illusory in the temporal world, and thus generates a lack of inner vision and a lack of clarity of one's true purpose. So this is anywhere, any aspect in our lives in which we lack clarity. And the final underworld, which is the place of eternal rest. Now, this underworld is symbolic to the bliss that is achieved once we retrieve the parts of ourselves from the other 8 shadowy underworlds that we have, which is our areas of our psyche, of our being that have been neglected and unintegrated. So I mentioned these underworlds to again bring this practice up that my teacher has shared with us in the oral tradition and Nahualism. And it's to begin to classify the dreams according to which underworld they are resonant in. And this is kind of like another tool that we can use that on that quick reference that I shared at the beginning of the video. But this gets us a bit deeper, I feel like, because once we feel the dream that it's centered in a certain underworld, we know where to put our energy into transmuting that part of ourselves. And so that the dream doesn't do it for us, we consciously do it, and so that we can blossom our dreaming attention. So I want everyone to keep in mind that each person's inner process in the inner world is totally unique. So the dream in the first level of the underworld for me can look totally different than a dream in somebody else's first underworld. It's a matter of feeling the dream again for where it resonates within your being. Again, family, we're not really even scratching the surface of the dreaming wisdom and knowledge here in Mexico. I'm just mentioning these different things to kind of tie in and synchronize different viewpoints, different dreaming traditions in the world, and how we are really all speaking the same thing. Before closing out this video, I want to do a little bit more syncretism, excuse me. And we're going to start here with the East and dream yogis in the East. So in the dream yoga traditions, the masters speak of their experiences in the dream and in the Bardo plains with such conscious detail. It is obvious that their lineage had been working with the felt method of dreams in whatever way they developed it in their culture, but they've been doing so to a masterful degree. And in this book, the Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche goes on into the steps needed to develop the dreaming attention, and what is known as lucidity. And these are extremely powerful practices that can demonstrate the sophistication that the dream yogis carry. Okay, let's continue with the syncretism here. So this was quite new discovery for me, and I'm kind of excited about learning this. So there is an entire Sufi neurology is what I discovered, and it's called Kubrawi, in which their oniric theory depends on 2 steps. Yeah, I really like this. So the first is grasping the anatomical makeup of the soul, identifying each organ of the soul with its psycho-spiritual function. So the second step in their oniric theory is identifying the micro-cosmological scheme of Kubrawi thought, which provides the interpretive framework and establishes a correspondence between certain images and the psychospiritual rank of the soul. I'd love to learn more about the tradition. We'll move into, that's all I have on it for now. We'll move into the Aboriginal viewpoint, neurology. So for the Aboriginals, they believe that whatever happens in the dream time establishes the values, the symbols, and the laws of their society. Dreaming also refers to an individual's or groups set of beliefs or spirituality. So for example, An Indigenous Australian may say that he has kangaroo dreaming, or shark dreaming, or even honey ant dreaming. And this is complex. This gets into a layer of understanding the oniric process that, again, we are unfamiliar with. We need much more study and much more dreams, much more guidance into these spaces to really understand who we are and what the dream is. So this is the Akibulanian, or what is known as Africa. And according to the Orn nihilist sociological perspective, all human beings, regardless of race, color, and religion, belong to a primordial Ajobi. And their term for Ajobi is synonymous with the Western's notion of the family unconscious, or the collective unconscious. This family unconscious system, or Ajobi, is a constant theme in all of African tribal life. And it is said to unfold in not only the person to be born, but also the present living person and the recently deceased in the family. Alkebalanian scholar Augustine Noyer says that dreaming from an African psychological perspective is much less self-oriented than the Eurocentric view of the oniric process. He suggests that in the African perspective, there at times occurs a phenomenon of triangulation in dreaming, where dreams originate from another source to give messages to the individual for the benefit of others. And seeing that the tribal, seeing that Africa is, of course, much of it is still very tribal, it makes sense for their dreaming, for their view on dreaming to be much more of a collective thing. And that's what really interests me about the Akibulanian oniric process and how they look at the dream. Very powerful. So going a bit further back in time, I'm going to go into the dream books. And there's only a couple that have been found in the world. And I may not even, I'm just going over two here. The first one being the Egyptian dream book that is actually 3,000-year-old papyrus, and is a testament to the importance of dreams and how important they were to the ancient commitments. Now, this is the oldest dream book, or in this case, a dream tablet. It is an 11-tablet compendium of oniromancy written in the Akkadian language, and it is the oldest documented oniric text in the world. And it's quite beautiful. Okay, family, so of course there are other traditions of onerology that are not mentioned in this video, but I hope the point of this video gets across clearly so that we can so that we can all see the importance of dreams in all timelines, in all cultures of the world. And each people has had their own method of understanding their dreams through the feeling sense. For those of you that would like to learn more about Indigenous peoples and views on dreaming, maybe Indigenous peoples or ancient cultures, there is a chapter in an old dream book entitled Dream Lore and Superstitions of Primitive Peoples. It describes dreaming of a wide assortment of peoples, including the ancient Europeans, Muslims, Greenlanders, New Zealanders, Fijians, Zulus, and other African tribes, North American Indians, South American Indians, ancient Egyptians, ancient Greeks and Romans, Jews, etc. And it kind of just proves again that everybody had this reverence of dreaming. There were no phrases like, oh, it's just a dream in the ancient cultures and Indigenous cultures. It was of the utmost importance. So that was the first book I mentioned earlier, was Dream Lore and Superstitions of Primitive Peoples. And there's another book that is entitled The History of Dream Interpretation. You can find more information about other cultures and their oniric process. So in conclusion, the felt method of studying our dreams with the heart and our body can aid us in recovering our very own language and typology of dreams, just as the Indigenous First Nation peoples in many different parts of the world have done so proficiently. And as the dream yogi Tenzin Wangyal, excuse the pronunciation, but as this dream yogi says, we are the creators of not only our dreams, but their interpretation and their meaning. So be a good creator. And to me, that is the ultimate lesson we are learning in these times, is how to master our intent, how to create most harmonic, non-dualistic waking, dreaming, and sleeping states that are resonant with our path and that ultimately benefit the entire species and the entire. Giving thanks to you all, sending love to our dream family, and go ahead and like and subscribe here on the YouTube. This is gonna be our first YouTube BitChute video, so very excited. I hope it all is. I hope this was all easy to understand for everyone. Sending you all love, giving thanks.